What if I told you that $50,000 sitting in your savings account is like having a Ferrari parked in your garage with the engine off? You've got the power, you've got the potential, but you're going absolutely nowhere. And here's the crazy part. Most people who finally hit that $50,000 milestone make the exact same mistake. They celebrate for about 5 minutes, check their bank balance 3 times a day like it's their favorite TV show, and then nothing. They freeze. They become paralyzed by the very success they worked so hard to achieve. What would you do with an extra $50,000? Because I'm about to show you exactly why that number isn't your destination, it's your launch pad. Hi, I'm Matt, and on this channel, I break down wealth building strategies that actually work in the real world. We talk about financial freedom, investment strategy, and building wealth that lasts. If you're serious about making your money work as hard as you did to earn it, hit that subscribe button right now. Here's what nobody tells you about reaching $50,000 in savings. It's not just a number, it's a psychological threshold. It's the point where you stop being broke and start being dangerous to yourself. Because this is where most people make decisions that cost them decades of wealth building. Someone grinds for years, sacrifices weekend brunches, drives a car held together by duct tape and prayers, finally hits $50,000, and then proceeds to either do nothing or do everything wrong. It's like training for a marathon, showing up to the starting line and just standing there taking selfies. The truth is, $50,000 in savings puts you in the top 15% of Americans. That's Federal Reserve data from 2024. But here's the uncomfortable reality. Being in the top 15% of savers doesn't mean you're wealthy. It means you're really good at hoarding cash while inflation eats it like a teenager clearing out your refrigerator at midnight. Let me paint a picture of what happens in your brain when you hit $50,000. Your checking account has always been this yo-yo on caffeine. Paycheck comes in, bills go out, maybe there's a few hundred left over. But then you see $50,000 in savings and your brain does this weird thing. It stops seeing money as a tool and starts seeing it as a trophy. You're no longer thinking about what this money can do, you're thinking about what this money is. And that shift keeps people stuck at exactly this level for years. Are you making the same mistake right now? Money sitting in a savings account isn't wealth. It's potential wealth taking a very expensive nap. Let me break down what's actually happening to your $50,000 while it's sitting there earning 0.5% interest. With inflation running at 3 to 4% in 2025, your money is losing purchasing power every single day. It's like having ice cream in the sun. Sure, it's still technically ice cream, but it's melting into a puddle while you're admiring how you managed to buy it. But here's the part nobody talks about. The real reason people freeze at $50,000 isn't about not knowing what to do, it's about fear. When you had $5,000, losing $1,000 to a bad investment felt manageable. But with $50,000, suddenly every financial decision feels like you're defusing a bomb while wearing oven mitts. The stakes feel real. The money feels real. So you do nothing, telling yourself you're being careful when really you're just being scared. Pause the video right now and think about this. How long has your money been sitting there? 3 months? 6 months? 2 years? Every month that money sits in a regular savings account earning practically nothing, you're not being safe. You're actively choosing to get poorer. Because while you're protecting your $50,000 from imaginary threats, you're ignoring the very real threat of guaranteed inflation. It's like refusing to drive your car because you're worried about accidents, so instead you let it rust in the driveway. The wealthy don't think this way. They don't see $50,000 as the finish line. They see it as ammunition. They see it as the exact amount needed to start making money while they sleep. They understand something that took me years to figure out. The purpose of money isn't to sit there making you feel secure. The purpose of money is to make more money. Your $50,000 should be working a full-time job. Instead, it's lounging on a beach somewhere while you're grinding away trying to add to it. The mindset shift you need right now is to stop thinking of yourself as someone who has $50,000 saved and start thinking of yourself as someone who has $50,000 to deploy. Those sound similar, but they're universes apart. One is passive, one is active. One is defensive, one is offensive. One keeps you exactly where you are, and one launches you toward financial freedom.
There's this old rule financial advisors love to throw around. Keep 3 to 6 months of expenses in an emergency fund. For years, everyone nodded along like that was carved into stone tablets. But let me tell you something controversial. That rule was written for a different economy and a different reality. In 2025, blindly following that old rule with $50,000 is like using a flip phone because someone once told you phones should just make calls. Here's what actually needs to happen with your money. You need to understand the difference between protection money and growth money. They're not the same thing, they don't belong in the same place, and treating them the same is like using the same tool to hammer a nail and perform surgery. Your protection money, your real emergency fund, needs to be liquid, accessible, and safe. Notice I didn't say it needs to earn nothing. Back in 2020 and 2021, savings accounts were basically paying monopoly money. But in 2025, high-yield savings accounts are paying around 4.5% to 5%. That's actual money that covers most of your inflation. Your emergency fund should be in a high-yield savings account, not some dusty checking account at the bank you opened when you were 16. But here's the critical question. How much of your $50,000 actually needs to be emergency money? Be honest. If you lost your job tomorrow, what would you really need per month? Not your current lifestyle with the $200 DoorDash habit. I'm talking bare bones, keep the lights on expenses. For most people, that's $3,000 to $5,000 monthly. Let's say $5,000. A 6-month emergency fund is $30,000. So if you've got $50,000 and need $30,000 for emergencies, that leaves $20,000 just sitting there pretending to be emergency money when it's actually just scared money. And scared money doesn't make money. It just watches inflation happen from the sidelines. Now here's where it gets interesting. In March 2023, we watched Silicon Valley Bank collapse, then Signature Bank. And you know what people who had all their money in one place learned? Diversification isn't just for investments, it's for safety too. The FDIC insures up to $250,000 per account, which sounds like a lot until you realize having all your eggs in one basket means you're trusting that basket more than maybe you should. But the real lesson from 2023's banking crisis wasn't about banks failing. It was about having options. The people who panicked were the people who had no backup plan. The people who slept fine had their money working in multiple places, serving multiple purposes. That's the paradox of protection. Real safety doesn't come from locking everything down in one place. Real safety comes from spreading your risk across different vehicles that each serve a specific purpose. So here's what the wealthy actually do with their first $50,000. They don't hoard it, they don't invest it all, they split it strategically. Maybe $25,000 stays liquid in high-yield savings, enough to cover true emergencies with margin for error. The rest, that's where the magic happens. That's where compound interest stops being a concept you learned in school and starts being the thing that changes your entire financial trajectory.
Let me tell you something that's going to sound wild. If you take $25,000 right now, half of your $50,000, and put it into a simple index fund tracking the S&P 500, and you never add another dollar, and you just let it sit for 30 years, earning the market's historical average of about 10%, you'll have $436,000. No tricks, no crypto schemes, no picking individual stocks, no day trading. Just boring, predictable, proven wealth building. But here's the gut punch. If you leave that same $25,000 in a savings account, earning 1%, you know what you'll have in 30 years? About $33,000. You worked hard to save that money, protected it with your life, and after 3 decades, you have $8,000 more than you started with. Congratulations! You played it safe and lost approximately $400,000 in the process. Now, if you're still watching this video, and I can see about 50% of people have already clicked away, let me give you the real secret. Investing isn't complicated. We've made it complicated because confusion sells. Confusion sells courses, sells seminars, sells the idea that you need an expert. But the truth? Building wealth with $50,000 is stupidly simple. Not easy, but simple. What percentage of your 50K are you actually investing? Because here's what the data shows. Most people with $50,000 in savings have less than $5,000 invested. They've got the money to change their lives, but they're treating it like a museum piece instead of a tool. And I get it. Investing feels risky when you don't understand it. But you know what's actually risky? Being 65 and realizing that your careful, conservative, play-it-safe strategy left you broke. Let me break down exactly what you should be doing with that $25,000 that isn't emergency money. First, if your employer offers a 401k match, you're funding that to the maximum before anything else. That's free money.
Refusing a 401k match because you don't understand investing is like refusing a raise because you don't understand payroll. If you get a 50% match on the first 6% of your salary and you're making $75,000, that's $2,250 of free money every year. Over 30 years with growth, that company match alone could be worth over $370,000. After you max any employer match, you're opening a Roth IRA. Not a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA. The difference matters. With a Roth IRA, you pay taxes now and then it grows tax-free forever. When you're 65 with $500,000 in your Roth IRA, you can pull it all out and not give Uncle Sam a penny. Try that with a traditional IRA and watch the IRS take a bite that'll make your eyes water. You can contribute up to $7,000 per year to a Roth IRA in 2025 if you're under 50. That's $583 monthly. If you've got $25,000 sitting there ready to invest, you're maxing that out immediately. Boom, $7,000 down, $18,000 to go. What do you do with the rest? You're putting it into a taxable brokerage account and buying index funds. Not individual stocks, not whatever hot tip your cousin's friend's barber told you about, index funds. Here's why index funds are the closest thing to a cheat code. When you buy an S&P 500 index fund, you're buying a tiny piece of the 500 largest companies in America. You're betting on American business to keep doing what it's done for 100 years. Grow. Could it go down next year? Sure. Could it go down for 2 years? Yeah, happened in 2008. But over any 20-year period in history, the S&P 500 has never had negative returns. Not once. You know what has had negative returns over 20 years? Cash in a savings account after inflation. Do you know what your money is actually earning right now? Not what you hope it's earning, not what you think it should earn, but what it's actually doing. Because every day you delay investing is a day of compound growth you'll never get back. Time in the market beats timing the market. That's not a clever saying, that's mathematical fact. If someone invested $25,000 in an S&P 500 index fund in January 1995, that money would be worth approximately $275,000 by January 2025. That's 30 years, through the dot-com crash, through 9/11, through 2008, through the 2020 pandemic. The market went down, people panicked, CNBC screamed about the end of the world, and yet that money quietly grew 11 times over. Meanwhile, $25,000 in a savings account from 1995 would be worth maybe $35,000 today. Same starting point, wildly different endings.
Here's where we separate people who build real wealth from people who just read about it. Everything I've told you is the foundation. Emergency fund and high-yield savings. Roth IRA maxed out. Index funds in a brokerage account. That's your baseline. But if you really want to turn $50,000 into something life-changing, you need to understand the difference between saving rich and thinking rich. The middle class saves money and then protects it. The wealthy save money and then deploy it. The middle class sees $50,000 as a goal. The wealthy see $50,000 as a down payment. The middle class asks, how do I not lose this money? The wealthy ask, how do I make this money work harder than I do? That mindset difference is worth more than any investment strategy. Let me tell you what happened in 2024 that most people missed. The Federal Reserve started cutting interest rates after holding them at 5.5% for over a year. When rates drop, bond prices go up, stock valuations change, real estate becomes more attractive, and the entire financial landscape shifts. The people who had cash ready to invest made a fortune. The people who were waiting for the right time or keeping it safe watched opportunity walk right past them. And here's the brutal truth. Opportunities don't wait for you to feel ready. This is where diversification becomes your best friend. Not diversification in the traditional sense, that's what your index fund already does. I'm talking about diversification of financial vehicles. You've got money in high-yield savings for emergencies. You've got money in a Roth IRA growing tax-free. You've got money in index funds building long-term wealth. But the next level? Adding passive income streams. Maybe that's dividend-paying stocks that send you checks every quarter. Maybe that's real estate investment trusts giving you property exposure without being a landlord. Maybe that's treasury bonds providing guaranteed returns. The point isn't to do all these things, it's to understand that once you hit $50,000, you have enough capital to start building a portfolio that works for you in multiple ways. You're not just saving anymore, you're not just investing anymore. You're building a financial ecosystem where different parts serve different purposes. Here's something that blows minds. Take $10,000 of your $50,000 and invest it in dividend stocks with an average yield of 4%. That's $400 per year in passive income. Not life-changing, but stick with me. You take that $400 and reinvest it back into more dividend stocks. Next year, you're earning dividends on $10,400, not $10,000. The year after that, you're earning dividends on your original investment plus all accumulated dividends. This is compound interest on steroids. After 20 years, that $10,000 could be generating over $1,000 per year in passive income without you lifting a finger. Now, imagine you're doing that with dividend stocks, with index funds, with real estate investments, with everything working together. Suddenly, you're not just building wealth for retirement, you're building income streams that start paying you while you're still working. That's financial independence. That's the point where you stop checking your bank account with anxiety and start checking it with excitement. Would you rather have $50,000 now or $500,000 in 20 years? Because that's not hypothetical, that's a real choice you're making right now. Every day that money sits in a checking account earning nothing, you're choosing the $50,000. Every day you invest it strategically, you're choosing the $500,000. And before you say, but what about risk? Let me ask you this, what's riskier? Investing in the American stock market that has grown consistently for 100 years, or betting that your job will be safe, your health will hold up, and you'll somehow figure out retirement with whatever's left after decades of inflation? The real risk isn't investing. The real risk is thinking that playing it safe is actually safe. Playing it safe in 2025 means watching your purchasing power decline every year. It means working longer than you planned. It means being financially dependent on systems you can't control. That's not safety. That's vulnerability dressed up in comfortable clothes.
So here's your actual action plan, the thing you're doing today. First, calculate your true emergency fund needs. Be honest, if you need $30,000 for 6 months of actual expenses, that's your number. Move that money into a high-yield savings account. Marcus, Ally, Capital One, American Express all offer accounts earning over 4%. That's your safety money earning enough to keep pace with inflation. Second, open a Roth IRA if you don't have one. Fidelity, Vanguard, Charles Schwab, pick one. Max it out for this year. $7,000 goes into a target date retirement fund or a simple S&P 500 index fund. Set it and forget it. That money is off limits until retirement, which means it grows without you messing with it every time the market has a bad week. Third, everything else goes into a taxable brokerage account. Same companies. You're buying index funds. VTSAX, VTI, VOO, SPY. They all track the entire market or the S&P 500. They're boring, they're unsexy, they're also going to make you wealthy if you give them time. Set up automatic investments. Every month you're adding money. You're not checking the balance daily. You're not panicking when it drops. You're just consistently, boringly, predictably building wealth. Fourth, educate yourself about tax-advantaged investing. It's not just about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. Understanding the difference between long-term and short-term capital gains saves you thousands. Understanding how to tax loss harvest turns market downturns into opportunities. Understanding Roth conversions saves you tens of thousands of dollars in retirement. And fifth, give yourself permission to be wealthy. A lot of people self-sabotage at this level because somewhere deep down they don't believe they deserve to be wealthy. They think wealth is for other people, smarter people, luckier people, people born into it. But you've already done the hard part. You saved $50,000. That's harder than investing it. The discipline you used to save that money is the same discipline that will make you wealthy. You just need to redirect it from protection to growth. The bottom line is this: $50,000 in savings is an incredible achievement. It puts you ahead of most Americans. But it's not the destination. It's the exact moment where you decide whether you're going to be someone who has money or someone who builds wealth. Those are different things. Having money is about the present. Building wealth is about the future. Having money makes you feel secure today. Building wealth makes you actually secure for decades. Your $50,000 isn't too much to invest, and it's not too little to matter. It's exactly enough to change everything if you're willing to stop treating it like a trophy and start treating it like a tool. The wealthy aren't wealthy because they saved more than you. They're wealthy because they understood this exact moment, the moment when you have enough to start building, and they took action. Not perfect action, not risk-free action, just consistent, strategic, long-term action. So what's it going to be? Are you going to let that $50,000 sit there slowly losing value to inflation while you convince yourself you're being responsible? Or are you going to take everything you learned in this video and actually use it? Because I can give you the blueprint, I can show you the math, I can prove it works with decades of data, but I can't make you take the first step. Only you can do that. And that step starts today.